The information shared on Light Body Radio is for educational and informational purposes only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed healthcare provider, or qualified wellness practitioner with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health goal. Dr. Laura May, her guests, and affiliates do not claim to cure, prevent, or treat any condition and are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that any actions you take based on the content are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in to Light Body Radio.
Welcome to Light Body Radio, where science meets soul and healing gets multidimensional. I am your host, Dr. Laura May, functional medicine pharmacist, master intuitive Reiki channel, and certified life and health coach. Here we decode root causes, transmute stuck energy, and empower your full spectrum healing journey, body, mind, and light body. This isn't just wellness, it's awakening, grounded in science, guided by spirit, and designed for your evolution. Let's rise and radiate. Welcome to the next level of you. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Laura May, and today we have with us Kayse Gehret. She is a pioneer in the microdosing and healing art space. She is the founder of Microdosing for Healing and creator of the Professional Microdosing Facilitator Program, which trains the next generation of conscious wellness professionals across the globe. With nearly 30 years of experience, Kayse has supported over 1,400 individuals through microdosing journeys that blend science, soul, and ceremony, offering a grounded and empowering path to transformation. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us how you came to be in this field. It's not a typical field, but it's definitely one that I am both curious and passionate about. I feel like I'm always learning new things. So tell us all the good things. Yeah.
Atypical, indeed. Yeah, so I've been in the healing arts for many, many years. I grew up wanting to be a doctor. I thought I would be a doctor throughout my childhood. And at 19, I kind of got the call to move to the West Coast and discovered, quote unquote, alternative healing, and kind of was pulled in a very different direction into alternative healing. And for many, many years studied lots of different modalities, had my own private practice, had healing art studios in Northern California when I came across serendipitously the idea of microdosing. And growing up, I had never done drugs in large part because I had a seizure disorder. So I had grand mal seizures. And so drugs, particularly psychedelic drugs, were not interesting to me. I was wary of kind of disturbing my already precarious mind, but microdosing I could get behind. And so I tried that, just thinking that that would be another modality similar to yoga or meditation, a spiritual supplement of sorts, and my seizures stopped immediately after that. And then also received a whole lot of other benefits. So during the pandemic, when my studios were closed down, I pivoted and started offering microdosing work online, helping other people to support their path. And that today has grown into a global community, programs, and professional training too.
Oh, cool. Right on. So just for the audience clarity, we're specifically talking about psilocybin, or are there other things that you involve in your microdosing teaching and protocols?
Great question. So psilocybin is my baby. It's my medicine. I love it so much. So all of my teaching and guiding tends to center upon psilocybin, but there are many other earth and plant medicines that you can microdose, and we bring that into our programs alongside other guides with expertise with those medicines.
Awesome. And so I feel like the name in and of itself is sort of self-descriptive, microdosing. But again, just for clarity, so our listening audience, is not, left dangling out there being not sure. uh, let's talk about the nuances of microdosing and how it is different from recreational and or full dosing for psychedelic use.
Sure thing. So the big thing that differentiates is it's sub-perceptual. So you are going to feel and receive benefits, noticeable benefits, but you're not going to feel altered per se, or trippy, or have any kind of distorted thinking or visuals. It's operating a microdose at typically about 1/10 of what a psychedelic trip would be. So you're going about your day, you're going about your life, you're doing it and, incorporating it into your real-time life, which is what makes it special and easier to integrate for beginners.
Yeah. And so how do I want to phrase this? So I already know your answer, but because of your practice, but let's talk about just taking it as a supplement versus with intention.
Yes. Part of the beauty is I've supported now, coming up on 1,600 people now over the last 5 years. And the beauty is everybody comes with their own intentions, right? And so a lot of times people start with mental health issues. They might be feeling depression, anxiety, or physical health. They might have headaches. A lot of people want to stop drinking less alcohol, and they hear that this could help them. So it's great to start with an intention, but I encourage people to set your intention, but also hold a wide expectation, because so often the medicine will give you and deliver so much more than you could have possibly imagined. So it's part intention, but it's also being part open to reception and listening to the wisdom and spirit of the medicine itself.
So would you say that there is, do we know the mechanism as to why it is so impactful for so many different things? That's my pharmacy brain coming out here.
Totally. So yes, in part, it's kind of a fun time because we try to figure everything out. It's what our human mind does, right? And so in part, we know that psilocybin plays and works with the serotonin receptors in our body. We tend to focus on the mind right now because that's where our focus is, around the mind and mental health. But actually, we have serotonin receptors all throughout our body. Actually, most of them are in the gut system. And so we do know scientifically how psilocybin works biologically with the physical body, but we have studied psilocin, right, which is the chemical compound in psilocybin mushrooms. However, psilocybin mushrooms also have an entourage effect of so many other compounds within the mushrooms that we are just kind of scratching the surface of what I think we will learn does for the human body over time. So I think when people read and they, sit in our community and you listen to the stories and you see kind of the breadth and depth of benefits that people can experience, you're like, is this too good to be? Like, how can this one little mushroom do so many different things? But it really can. And I think it's going to take some time for the science to kind of catch up to the millennia of wisdom that nature has always known.
Well, I'm sure there's a piece too of just how, the mindset piece of how we create our own health, or we create our own dis-ease and illnesses manifesting in our body. So if we come to it with, one intention, whether maybe that is mental health, that's a great place to start, actually, because I think everything else, if it's not the gut, is stemming from our mindset and what we're thinking about our bodies, about our life, about our situations, whatever they may be. And so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's probably, and there might not be a necessarily like a mechanism of action that we would think of with any other, whether it's over the counter drug, pharmaceutical drug, or even herbal supplement, in terms of how we look at its function in the body. But I'm fairly confident that I think this epigenetic piece of it is probably fairly significant and large, and we're we still don't want to give that as much credit as it's due, I think.
Yes. I mean, we support and collaborate with a lot of scientists and researchers in our training. And just yesterday in our training, one of them presented and said, placebo has always been a part of medicine since the dawn of medicine, and the expectation we hold and our mindset around our healing and believing truly that healing is possible has always been a huge part of medicine. And so the argument over like, what is it exactly? Is it the mushroom or is it mindset? Like, what is the percentage, right? Those things, that's our human mind trying to figure it out. Ultimately, what is most important is that people feel better and live healthy, thriving lives. And at the end of the day, even the scientists agree, like that's what matters most.
Right. Yeah.
What we give credit to really pales in comparison to the ultimate results that we're seeing.
Yeah. How does, the legal aspect come into play? I know I'm in California, and so psilocybin is legal across the board here in our state.
It's not actually.
Oh, it's not. So it's just certain, because I know like in the Bay Area, like around Oakland and San Fran,
it's so confusing
there. But yeah. So, okay. So please clarify. And I think Colorado too. Yeah.
Yep. It's such a great example. And so the way that decriminalization has moved is I kind of laugh because I try to look at things through the lens of nature. It's been very, very mushroomy, right? It's mycelial. It's kind of unpredictable. It kind of creeps all over. And so it's happened very grassroots level. Like there's lots of towns and cities and counties across the United States that have decriminalized. So basically, they didn't legalize it, but they just said, this is the lowest priority to law enforcement, right? So legally, there are only 2 states right now, Colorado and Oregon, statewide, that have brought legalization efforts. I think New Mexico just may have 2. Alaska's getting close, it looks like. And then there's a whole bunch of towns and cities that have decriminalized. So as you mentioned, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Cruz was one of the first, which is where I lived for many years. And so, yeah, but it's definitely a concern. When we first started our platform and programs years ago, we taught people to cultivate their own mushrooms at home. And so while they might not have been legal, they way lowered their risk because they weren't out buying it on Instagram. For example, they were growing it much like an herb garden in their own home, using it for their own sacred therapeutic personal use. This was also during the pandemic when people had a lot of time on their hands to learn hobbies and bake bread and grow mushrooms, right? Since that time, the field has grown so much that there are many more sources that have legal protections and religious protections that people can source through. But that's something we talk about a lot in our trainings in our community, is how do I participate in this practice that is so healing and beneficial, but also keep myself safe depending on where I live.
Right. Yeah. And I think especially for those that are licensed by some sort of state or federal organization or bureau or whatever you want to call it, it can be a little nerve-wracking, or, you want to make sure that your license is protected too, if you're still working underneath it in other aspects as well. So,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. So wherever you are in the United States, just check out, your local, either decriminalization or possibly legalization, and maybe even look into getting involved with your local advocacy groups. I'm sure that can actually, the more the merrier. I know now we have a pharmacist-specific psychedelic association that's nationwide, and I am the Western States leader for the pharmacy, for the Functional Medicine Pharmacist Alliance. And it is a topic that's come up. And so, it's prevalent, it's growing. We know that there's benefits. We know that there is a difference between the micro and the macro, if you will. Not everything has to be taken to sort of the nth degree with those macro dosing and sort of going off planet, if you will. That can, if you're doing that in a guided journey, it can be very therapeutic and very healing, but there can also be so many benefits from just, again, the small doses. So one of the things we say in pharmacy is start low and go slow whenever we're titrating or starting anything. And so I think this is a mantra that can be, extrapolated out to so many different things in life and in exploring, plant medicines and ceremonial medicines as well.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm close colleagues with some of the founders of the Psychedelic Pharmacists Association, and that organization is wonderful. Yeah, they're frequent collaborators with us, and pharmacists have a really, really vital role because so many Americans are going to be moving from pharmaceutical medications to natural medicines for a whole host of reasons in the coming months and years. And so pharmacists have an incredibly important role to help play in being the bridge between those disciplines. So yeah, thank you for that work.
Yeah. So let's talk more about maybe are there more misconceptions or fears that we haven't really discussed? I'm sure there are, in terms of both maybe the consumer side of things too, when people are just maybe started learning about it and, they're familiar with the recreational side, but.
Yes, tons. I joke a lot that, 5 years ago, the issue was there wasn't enough information. And now the primary issue is there's so much misinformation and stigma, or people just go on the interwebs and bring these random thoughts. And it's like, they don't know what the source is. And so, yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions. I would say the biggest one I hear still is people hold a lot of fear around mushrooms. The conditioning is old to misunderstand and fear what we don't know. And a lot of people fear losing control. This is a big one for a lot of the people I work with. They hold a lot of responsibility. They have families. They have a big job. And they're like, I can't be off my game. I can't be trippy. I can't be altered. And so the biggest misconception we work with kind of in the first days and weeks of practice is they think it's going to feel one way, and then they start and they quickly realize it's the opposite of what they thought. I think a lot of people think it's going to be like an alcohol or cannabis or other drug experience, when psilocybin actually makes you more clear. It makes you more you. You're better at almost everything. That's a surprise I hear from a lot of, especially kind of my high performance people. They're like, why isn't everybody doing this? I'm like, better at everything.
Yeah, right? I feel like it's kind of like a nootropic, and sort of like it turns your brain on in all the best ways. And so for me, since I've entered perimenopause, my ADHD all of those symptoms have just gone on overdrive. And so microdosing psilocybin is one of those things I've experimented with, and, just sort of, let's try this and see, maybe I don't need these other supplements that I've been taking to boost my brain, or maybe it even complements it even more. And so, yeah.
100%. 100%. One of the things I love, it's most gratifying to me and the people I work with, is a lot of people I've worked with come in thinking that the way they are is a liability. They're like, I'm so sensitive. I'm so easily overwhelmed. I have ADHD. It's hard for me to ground. Once they start working with mushrooms, they see those things that used to be a liability are actually their greatest gifts. I don't view ADHD and neurodivergencies the way I used to before I see them kind of more from an evolutionary standpoint, where it's a gifted mind, and really psilocybin helps us bring coherence to our energy and our minds to be able to harness that multiplicity of reality that is going to serve us in the future really beautifully. So, cool. Yes.
So anything else that has really stands out to you in terms of the misconceptions that we can dispel today?
I think the worry of loss of control, the fear around mushrooms. Also, there's a lot of misinformation about dosing and how to practice. I think when people practice on their own and they don't know any better, they kind of fall back, understandably, to pharmaceutical prescription methods where they think it's apples to apples. and they're like, oh, well, I took my antidepressant every day. I'll take my microdose every day. That's really not how it works. I often encourage people to think of microdosing more as a relationship rather than a pill that you're taking. And so build relationship into it, build ritual into it to kind of set it apart from just popping a pill, because the goal of microdosing is to work with you. It's going to change and grow over time. Some people will microdose 6 weeks and they get so much benefit and they reach a new set point. They sometimes go, am I going to lose everything I gained if I stop microdosing? Then they stop, take a break, and nothing changes. And they realize that was them that healed. They're not reliant on the mushroom. It was actually just activating their innate healing within, and they have a new set point. They have a new nervous system. And if they come back to microdosing, it's often for a new intention. They want to work on something new and different. They're growing in a new way. But it's very different than kind of a pharmaceutical prescription where it's reliant on the substance to maintain the set point. So that too is a big mind-bending shift for a lot of people. And one of the important things to have guidance, supported guidance or community with you to help you kind of open your mind about how you interact with the medicine.
I mean, that makes so much sense too, because from the pharmaceutical perspective, we often take a pharmaceutical because we are trying to quote unquote fix something that is wrong.
Yes.
Right. And so if we get rid of that whole thought altogether, that nothing is wrong with us, just like you said with the ADHD, it's not a disability. It's actually advantageous and can be a true gift. Then I think that also opens up the possibility, like you said, okay, then if I don't need to take this because I'm broken, then what are the possibilities that can be when I'm taking this to, again, like stimulate, support, grow, evolve, whatever adjective or verb you want to, put to it. That, I love that is a big shift, even just of the approach of the intention and that one thought of, and ask yourself the why. I think that's super important. Of why am I doing this, and what do I want to see from it? And then maybe, of course, I'm always a big fan of being open to things that are better than we could ever imagine. Those unexpected things,
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest shifts I've seen in people. I mean, I've been working with people coming up on 30 years, and as a whole, I've never seen so many people just in the last few years shift from the mindset of managing their symptoms or kind of keeping things manageable in their life. And it can be physical, mental, emotional. People coming to practice now are wanting more than that. It's more aspirational of how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel in my body? How do I want to be experiencing this life? Like managing things as is isn't enough anymore. And sometimes people are coming and they don't even really know what they're getting themselves into, but they're so passionate about changing and transforming and growing that they're willing to try something a little bit different or unexpected for them, something they never thought that they might be trying, because they can feel that in their bones, the promise of something more. What
are the specific benefits for women's health and women's wellness specifically?
I love this question. So much. But to start with what you already touched upon, I think we're going to have this incredible, it's already underway, renaissance of how we view the menopause journey in tandem with earth medicines, plant medicines, and hormone support. I think we're going to reinvent for millions of women how they view eldership and in our society, which is so exciting. So psilocybin specifically is very healing for women's health, particularly women's hormones and reproductive health. So I've worked with a lot of women with PMDD. For listeners who don't know what that is, imagine like PMS on steroids. It's to the point where people can barely function. Women come and it's basically stealing life from them, sometimes a third of every month. start microdosing psilocybin, and for the first time in their lives, 6 weeks later, they can't tell the difference between their periods and non-periods. It's that dramatic for some women. So it really brings us into balance, which is what it does in nature. It remediates. A lot of women, I have seen an unmistakable connection between childhood trauma in women and dysregulated reproductive systems. Often it shows up in the body there. And so it's very, very healing with females' health that is rooted in trauma and abuse in this lifetime and sometimes in our maternal lineages. Also, I think supporting women through a lot of women's nervous system conditions manifest in a whole range of symptoms that historically we have treated as the symptoms, when really it's nervous system dysregulation. So, for example, eating disorders, which predominantly affect women, all of the addictive disorders, repetitive disorders that are tied to nervous system regulation and a looping, ruminating mind that manifest in ruminating, looping behaviors, a lot of them find a lot of cessation and support from psilocybin microdosing because it gets to the underlying root of a dysregulated nervous system. So a lot of those symptoms disappear, everything from addictions, disordered eating, social anxiety.
Well, and again, coming back to the neurotransmitter level of things, a lot of that is, dependent upon your dopamine regulation or dysregulation. And so again, looking at those serotonin balances, and again, they're mostly produced in the gut itself. So, using this as a tool, but also coming back to that core approach of really nourishing your microbiome, your gut health, and that as, from my perspective, it's done with both food, but also, again, mindset tools, meditation, and, what are you doing to calm your system? Because that driving fight or flight, that driving cortisol, it's all connected and it all trickles down. And if, so it's not just, you can't look at it in a vacuum, and just say, okay, this is the one thing. So I think it's really important to also see this as like a layering into the other things that you're doing. Like, yes, it's amazing, but it's, again, it's a tool in your toolbox. So beautiful.
Yes, 100%. And people often ask, can I microdose alone? Will I get the same effect? Yes. I mean, I did, and plenty of us guides did when we were starting, because literally no one else around us was doing it at the time. But one of the things I think it's helpful to have reflection on is these lifestyle things, because if you just pop a pill, or take your microdose and pop a pill without changing and shifting all of the other things in your life, yes, you can absolutely have benefits, but they won't be as great as they can be. Once you have that understanding of how everything's connected, like you said, sometimes people will start microdosing and then they're like, oh, I'm sleeping restfully for the first time. I get a good night's sleep. When you sleep better, you eat better. When you eat better, you choose different foods, right? And it's this cascade effect of behaviors. And so you can't really put your finger on which is the thing that made all the difference. Because it's all the things.
Cool. Let's see. But is there anything else that we need to touch on and sort of to like bring this sort of together before we move into the training program? In terms of like intro information for the listeners, I think we've covered a lot.
I do. Yeah. And if anybody, I have an intro, like a 101 workshop that lives on my feed always for people, where I try to answer all the beginner questions that I always get. So it's a free download. People can access anytime, but really don't be afraid to ask. I find a lot of times it's just kind of stepping into this world and join a community, join a society, join a professional organization like you have, and get around other people who are at different stages of practice with different backgrounds. And very quickly, I watch people come into our community who are from places where this is very novel and very new. And they see how many other like kindred spirits there are all over the world. And as soon as you step in, you get very comfortable and empowered with just knowledge and education.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so then let's move into the training program piece. So why is because there are, several, I mean, I know of, just because of the research I've done, of a few that are out there, but why is yours different?
Good question. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot now of psychedelic guide training programs, a lot of wonderful long-term for people who want to hold space for ceremony, lots of wonderful programs. And part of what I came to this year is just everybody I had in my professional program or in my participant programs were asking for professional training from that. So part of it was just responding to what people were asking for, but also realizing that microdosing is a very unique, distinct practice apart from journeys. It's very different to work with someone in the earth realm versus being with someone in the spiritual realm.
Right.
Very,
sure.
very different.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, working in the Muggle world is more challenging than being in the other planes right now. So it's a distinct role. And also having supported so many thousands of people, I really was able to bring together a teaching team at this point that really served what is actual guideship like in the real world, apart from theoretical learning and academic learning. Because what I found was a lot of times when people would take very science and research heavy trainings, they would get to the end of that and a lot, but knowing a lot, like no one ever really healed from knowing more. Right? It's really, really experience. Mm-hmm. It's feeling it. It's witnessing it over time. This is really a beautiful practice to learn through apprenticeship. So apprenticeship is part of our program too, where you actually are in the real world, supporting people in real time. And so we do bring in a lot of the science and the research so people are educated, can speak fluently, but it very much focuses on real world direct experience with people and the things that people are going to face in the real world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. So tell people where they can find you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super accessible on all the platforms under my name, Kayse Gehret. And then our website is Microdosing for Healing. And that's where there's a lot of free downloads, free info, as well as our professional program and our global community there too.
Awesome. And I don't know, how have you seen some of the I would say graduates, I guess, of your program, like implement this into their practices or into their lives beyond, just the personal aspect?
Fabulous question. I get so excited about this question because one of the intentions I set when we began the program was diversity. I really wanted to hold a space where a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds could become guides, incorporate this into their lives, and that delivered. We got that in spades. So we've had a lot of doctors, nurses, clinicians who want to become educated in microdosing because a lot of them say, my clients are asking for it. My patients are asking for it. And I feel like I really needed to get knowledgeable of how to support them while they were moving through this practice when they dosed on their own to kind of speak the language and know how this worked. We also have a whole lot of people who have other diverse healing arts backgrounds, from massage therapists to coaches to counselors to therapists that want to add and incorporate microdosing skills into their existing practices and kind of amplify and enhance the benefits they already have. And then lastly, we have a whole lot of people who, it's funny, they just feel called to the work. And oftentimes they can't articulate it. They often have really serendipitous, funny stories about how the medicine found them, how it impacted them personally. And they're currently in corporate roles or other roles. I've had people go from very corporate roles to being medicine keepers in a very short amount of time because it's something they just kind of remembered they always had in their bones. So that can happen too. Sometimes people need a little encouragement because it's so far out of their something they ever thought that they would be doing. Yeah. But I've seen it time and time again that if you're called to do it, it's probably true.
Oh, beautiful. Have we left anything out?
Oh, there's always so much. I mean, there's so much to this work. It's kind of endless. And that's one of the fascinations about it. I've done hundreds and hundreds of calls now. And every group call, like I always learn something, and there's always something new that the medicine teaches and shows us it's capable of. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I think the lesson the big message to take away from today is that community is amazing and your intention is so powerful, and the combination of those two can really be the equivalent of big shifts.
Yes. Yeah, I support that so much. And also I think right now it's so important to be with people who are also aligned in that way. Mm-hmm. Right now we're seeing kind of at scale all of our institutions are shifting and changing in all the ways we've always done things. And I think this practice is one of the ways that's going to really bring people together in a new way in the future that's based on kind of a shared soul experience of life versus more of our institutional roles that we have lived up until now. So yeah, it's a special moment for sure.
Well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the work that you're doing in the world. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful. Definitely, everyone, check out microdosingforhealing.com. And if you're interested in the professional training program, that is microdosingforhealing.com/professional training.
Thank you so much. And likewise, thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for joining me on Light Body Radio, where functional medicine meets intuitive healing and transformation happens on every level. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and if you're ready to go deeper, visit drlaramay.com to book a functional medicine consultation or an intuitive healing session. Whether you need to rebalance your body, clear your energetic blocks, or reconnect with your soul's purpose, I've got you. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Lara May for daily inspiration, energy updates, and healing tools. Remember, your healing is multidimensional, and so are you. Until next time, honor your body, trust your intuition, and activate your light.